Welcome back to Normalized PTSD. Today we have Matthew. He was former Air Force COD, just like myself. I really hope that you all find something insightful in here. I know it helped me evaluate some aspects of my life, and yeah, it was really awesome. And I'm super appreciative of him and all the ones that come on to join and share their story. So hopefully you enjoy it too. Boom. Did you hear that?
I did.
Yeah. You didn't hear it last time. So
Uh,
so, I didn't know I was saving for when we chatted to tell you this. Last time we finished our session, right before we jumped on, I did that software update and it
yeah.
reset all my Zoom settings. And my
Mm.
biggest fear in the world is not recording. So I had it automatically set up that it's already recording. And then at the end of it, it does like a processing thing. And when I was sitting there and it wasn't processing, I was like, son of a bitch. And then I like checked backups, checked Zoom, couldn't find it. So the reason you're on round two is because I'm an idiot and never hit record.
Oh, no worries, man. That happens when you do software updates or anything else.
Yeah, I wasn't ready for it. Well, I appreciate you jumping back on here and doing this again. And
Of
I'm
course, of
definitely going to
course.
leave that part in there so everybody knows that, I make
We're
mistakes.
human.
Yeah.
It happens.
Well, we'll jump into it. Matt, thank you again for jumping on here for a second go about. And I just wanted to, I guess, get started. I've already heard this story, but I wanted to hear it again. I messed up on the audio. I'll add the little clip in there to why. And I just wanted to get to who is Matt? Like, tell me your story. Your nickname's Silverback. I love it. I think it's hilarious. The stories that I've heard about you is, pretty amazing. Like pulling pull up bars out of the ground because you're just getting after it. And I liked it. So tell us a little bit about yourself. Where'd you start? How'd you get to where you went to?
I yeah, I grew up born in Texas, grew up there, and then I went to high school. I played football, and then went to play year of college football, and that was cool, but it just wasn't really a fit for me because if you're not going to the pros, kind of thing, and that you're
Right.
just trading your body, for education. And it just wasn't the school that I wanted to make the trade for. So I'm like, oh, okay. Well, what do I want to do? So I kind of tooled around a little bit, did some junior college, and then, could see that, hanging around, the hometown wasn't really cutting it. So joined the Air Force. They got me on that one. I signed up open mechanics.
Oh
And
wow.
yeah, signed up open mechanics, and they sent me to basic 6 months later.
Were they just
So
like this guy looks real strong?
I don't know. I think the guy was just trying to meet his quota. I did
Right.
okay on the ASVAB. I wasn't as smart as some of my peers. As I found out later on, but I had high enough mechanical electronic scores to get eligible for EOD. I didn't know what it was at the time. I didn't know it was in my future, but
Right.
that was the first box that got checked. And
Awesome.
then you go through maps and that whole rigmarole and everything else.
Hmm.
And then you know the military just clicked for me. I felt like it was something that I had been waiting to get into for a long time. It just made sense. And then EOD just kind of fell into my lap. I had they went pick up the job. They said there's gonna be a ton of jobs there. You're open mechanics, right? You get to choose. And most people were chuckling, like, oh, "Wow, open mechanics, they got you, huh?" I'm like, "What are you talking about?" Like, yeah, you can come in with a guaranteed job, so you're not going to get hosed. And I was like, "Oh, shit, that's not good." So there's like 10 jobs on my list. I rack and stack them, and as soon as I clicked the one for EOD, there, it got moved to the top. And
Oh
so
wow.
that was going to be in my future. I tried out for PGA the next day and made it through those wickets, but then doing the paperwork, they're like, "Hey, you already signed up for EOD yesterday, uh, so if you want, once you come back in like 3 years."
Yeah. And that's not easy. That was actually a really tough, I felt
It
like.
was it was brutal. Like they saw
Yeah.
us coming and they started yelling at us with bullhorns to run to get up there. And then when we got there, first thing was a swim, right? So
Right.
there's like 40 to 60 people in this tiny locker room, and they just dump a barrel full of swimsuits on the ground. And they say, you've got exactly 2 minutes to get changed to
Yeah.
get to this, swim deck. And I remember the kid next to me grabs like a huge swimsuit, and I have this tiny one, and I'm like, trade me. And he's just freaking out. And he's just standing there putting his big swimsuit on, trying to tie it up. I'm like, give me the swimsuit, give me the little one. And he just held it together and ran out there. And so I'm trying to squeeze my fat ass in this tiny swimsuit.
Right.
And we get out there, and sure enough, as you're swimming around, it's, well, the dude just passed me, going the other way. That guy was naked. That's probably the dude who lost his suit.
Right.
So, but that was a big crash, right? Because some people swim, some couldn't. And so 60 people in the pool, and like 25 made it out,
right.
After the swim. And then, you go through the rest of it, and it was just, it was brutal. It was like, holy crap.
And they get all the way through that, and they're like, oh, you're in EOD. That's critically mad career field.
Yeah.
Nope.
Yeah.
Thanks.
At that point, I'm just like, wow, okay. All right, let me see what EOD is about,
So you still had like no idea what you're really getting into with EOD?
No. Like the TI had said, they're, he gave me some canned answer. Like, I think they deal with landmines, and someone else's was, I think they do explosives. Not really sure what that is, but they think they do that. And it's like, what the hell? Okay.
Right.
And then, I remember my mom, she wasn't super happy about it because that's all I could convey, right? I think we work on, bombs and, landmines and stuff. And so when we got the chance to call home to family, right? And try to tell them what's going on, my mom like freaks out. She's like, what the fuck? On the phone. It's like, hands it over to my dad. He's like, I can hear in the background, Jesus Christ, how hard is it to fuck up just being a mechanic, And I'm like, great.
Sounded boring, Dad. I didn't want to do that.
Yeah. So, I mean, eventually, my folks became my greatest fans, right?
Right.
Kind of thing. But in the beginning, they weren't too happy. Here I was, supposed to have like a peaceful job, just kind of learn some skills so I can do some stuff on the outside, right?
Right.
And instead, I'm going to be working on mines,
Have they met the EOD, I guess, community at all?
They have, yeah. They've met,
Nice.
Not too deep, but my dad's come up a couple times, and he's been able to, like on a station at Cannon, he came up and went to a couple like unit functions kind of thing.
Right.
And so that was kind of neat for him to be able to sit there and, have a couple whiskeys with the guys, and he'd open up to them. To me, he was still,
right.
Like my father, like we had like maybe 2 hugs, I think, in my life, and the rest of it was just kind of like handshakes,
Yep.
So
handshakes.
Yeah, maybe one day I'll breach that barrier. He'll open up with some stories, to me, because he had a pretty, crazy life.
What did he do?
He grew up in Panama, so he was a Navy brat. His dad was a Navy chief.
Okay.
So he grew up in Panama, and then he moved to the States to go to college when he was 17. And that's around the same time that my dad's dad died, when he was 17. So he came up, he went to UT, and he did 4 years there on a
University
scholarship.
of Tennessee,
Texas.
Oh, that's not UT. That's the fake UT. We'll both be in the SEC soon enough.
I know. So so he got a VA scholarship because his dad died on duty, and so he was able to get up there and go to school and do that part. So he worked in the chow hall and did some other odd jobs to keep his scholarship and stuff.
Right.
And then after college, he was supposed to go on this motorcycle ride with his friends. Everybody bailed. He was like, fuck it, I'm doing it myself. So he took off by himself on a Honda 250 and rode to California. And then he rode from California to Florida on this little ass bike. I was like thinking, would you do like odd jobs around the way? Like, it was like from Kung Fu, he's kind of a traveler or something.
Right. Well, that's a cool story.
So he did that, and he ended up being a cop in Orlando. And he was a beat cop, and then he was undercover, and he did narco. And he was doing like, he had his pilot's license, so he was doing like narco flights, kind of thing. And then when they found out he put in for law school, they kind of, moved him out of that, right? And said, well, you're not really committed, kind of thing. And so he did law school, and then he was a lawyer, and a DA, and a judge.
That's amazing. It sounds like, you guys got good genes. you know,
He
from
did. He got the good genes. I mean, he could really suck it in, all that knowledge and information, right? Good
right.
luck beating that guy in Trivial Pursuit. Never happening.
Never.
Yeah.
So bringing it back to EOD school. So when you went to
Yes.
EOD, when did it start making sense? Like, oh, okay, this is what I'm getting into.
It made sense during the prelim portion. We showed up
Okay.
on the bus. We were with a bunch of security forces folks, right? Because we're still over there, and it was at that little time. It was at Lackland, still across from
Right.
like it turned out to be, because I never left the damn dorms because I was dorm chief and I was always stuck there.
Yeah.
But apparently it was like right across the exercise field. The
Hmm.
whole time I've been there for 6 weeks. Right over there is my future.
Right.
So we get there, they get off the bus, and they go the cops do push-ups, and they're yelling at them. And then some guy shows up in like short shorts
Hmm.
and a polo shirt. It
Yep.
said EOD on it, and a hat with a big porn stash, and some aviator shades, with an armload of toilet paper and some folders. He handed out the folders. He was like, everybody gets a roll of toilet paper. He's like, all right, welcome. This is
Yep.
going to be the preliminary course. You make it through this, you get to go to the real EOD school.
Yeah.
He's like, so I'll see you over there at the track tomorrow, 0500. So you guys can just go do whatever you need to, get haircuts, boots, shoes, whatever, get something you can run in.
Yeah.
Like, okay. And then we were off to the races, And so the new people that were there, they're getting ready to leave, they kind of filled us in on what they've been doing. And I was like, wow, that sounds pretty cool,
Right.
And
No,
then,
I think that's kind of what light bulb hit me was when I realized
yeah.
that EOD was a little bit unique, and it
Mm-hmm.
was I wasn't ever a fan of the military, and I don't mean to I don't mean any shade toward anybody whatsoever, but that wasn't really a direction I wanted to go on in life until I had some problems in the civilian world, and it was decided since I took an ASVAP and did that whole thing that it was either that or jail. So I
Yeah.
joined the
Yeah.
military to get out of some shenanigans I did as an adolescent. And then after that, I got into EOD and I saw that I got to get out of all of the military like monotony, and I was like,
Yeah.
oh, then that's what motivated me the most to never fail. But we'll just
For sure.
so you made it through prelim, went to EOD school.
Mm-hmm.
How did you find that challenging? Did you find like, I mean,
I thought, to me, it was the first real challenge I'd had, I think, academically, where,
yeah, I was about to
like,
say academically, and then there's the physical part, but they didn't really like bump that up until much later.
right. We got a little bit of it because we were a mixed class where
Right.
we're mixed bags. We had a couple of Marines and we had a couple of Navy guys.
Mhm.
Because usually they kept the Navy together, but for some reason they kind of split them up a little bit. And we had some onesie twosies, right, in our class. And so that meant, anytime, we did bad or we got on someone's shit list, we were going to PT it. So we had to do PT with the Air Force in the morning, go to class, get PT by instructors after school, PT again, grab some chow, and then go to the study hall for 3 hours. And then go home, pass out, and do
Right.
it all over again.
Wash and repeat. Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. And so that part kind of made sense. I like the regiment, was pretty, good for me. But then scholastically getting pushed was, that was new, and but it was a challenge. Like they wanted you to excel, and it was okay to be the nerd, right? To know
Right.
everything.
Right.
And because that was cool, and that's what you want to do. Because you failed, they said, you're going to be a cop. You're going to work in the chow hall.
Yep.
Now that's what you're doing if you fail this. And I was like,
Yeah.
I didn't want to do that,
Nope. None of us did.
And and you would see people that fail and just like disappear,
Mm-hmm.
especially up in Indian Head. You'd go to class and someone would fail a test in the morning, and by the time you got back in the afternoon or evening, they're gone. Like their shit's gone. You don't even get to talk to them. It's like, Jesus,
Yeah. And didn't even get to say goodbye. I still haven't reconnected with a few of my friends that we did early. I think they all fell out by ground,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
never I met one of them's cousin. He actually made it through UOD. But other than that, I've never been able to find any of them. Not that
Yeah.
I've looked super hard. I guess I could give more
No, you
effort.
could on Facebook, but I remember I had I remember a picture from Demo.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was Demo or Kim Bio, but looking at all the people who didn't make it,
Yeah.
and that was pretty far along.
Yeah.
Or maybe it was tools and methods. It was one of those, but there was like a picture of like 15, 20 people kind of sitting there. And then I looked at it, I'm like, fuck, there's only like 4 people in this photograph that actually made it to school.
Yeah.
You
And
know,
then
like
it's,
two out of 100, I think was what the number was going through.
yeah, I think we started something with like 26, 28, graduated with 12, 14. And like some of those were roll ins, they rolled in
Yeah,
like
yeah.
later. And of that, like I want to say at least 4 or 6 are dead. They
Mhm.
didn't even make it. Like they're not
Yeah.
here anymore. And it's like, Jesus.
I mean, and good or bad, like I had an opportunity to be stationed with, a lot of guys that got hit,
Yeah.
when I was at Cannon, and I was in Montana, so I was with Soulsby, Hamsky, you know,
Yeah.
with Schwartz, and then in Germany with Brad and Kermit was my captain.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, they just started adding up, quick,
Yeah.
and it's like,
Sorry, you go ahead.
go ahead, yeah,
I didn't mean to cut you off. It's just it's a long list, and it's
it
wild how like
is,
how close we are, and man, how many of them aren't here anymore. And
yeah.
it's yeah, that's the saddest part, I feel like. But man, they died heroes.
It
Um
did, and that was the biggest takeaway. And I think early on, like that's one plus that can come away from losing so many, close friends, or even acquaintances, right? Even if you weren't
yeah,
super close with them, but it
yeah,
was hard not to be, right? Because they were great people.
right. I mean, even
And
some of the guys I didn't like, I still
yeah,
liked them more than most people in the world,
yeah, man, there
because
was
I
a
was like, I didn't
couple.
want anything bad to happen to him ever. Like, you still loved him like a
No,
brother, but it was like the brother you can't stand.
no, yeah, they're like, man, I'm gonna miss that shithead.
Yeah, yeah,
That guy was an asshole, but but
yeah,
but man, he was you could find the good still, right?
right. Did you find that your physical fitness from football, did it help you at all, like in UD school or after
I
UD
think it
school?
helped in understanding early that you didn't need the best people to make a really great team. You needed the right people,
Right.
and that it was a key, right? And a key
Hmm.
has ups and downs. It has strengths and weaknesses, and that's you put it in a lock and it fits, and that's what you
Right.
need for the job. And so I think it helped me tune in early to realize that you know you you're going to have some weaknesses. You need to figure out how to shore those up, or
Yeah.
how to deal with them, or how does my strength help out this known weakness, or how can I pull someone else on the team that's going to be really good at it.
Hmm.
Like I remember Mountain Warfare School teamed up with someone who was great with a compass because I wasn't awesome at orienteering or land nav.
Yeah.
I was like, because I want to be next to this person who's a human compass and never gets lost. And for them this is super easy. So I'm gonna stick in their hip pocket to get me through this section. You know,
Right. Yeah. How did you because you're a dorm chief, did you have any leadership role in your like class for the Air Force side of the house?
I didn't know it at
Okay.
the time, but they had me just kind of down. Like it wasn't until I got Indian head, right, that
Right.
they had me put down as a rope, but we didn't have ropes. Like they didn't give
Hmm.
them to us or anything. And so they said, "Hey, that's what you are. That's why you have your own room." I was like, "Oh, okay, that's cool."
It's awesome.
So I
How'd you
got my
mo
own room towards the end, at Indian Head.
did you do any tricks of the trade to keep your guys motivated?
I ran PT. Tricks of the trade for motivate was just how do we stay motivated and make it fun and not dwell on the negative.
Right.
Use that gallows humor, but then constantly pushing each other. And then I found teaming people in class who didn't like each other helped keep them,
Okay.
competitive.
Right.
Because I would team up with one of the army guys that was annoying as fuck, but man, he was really good at memorizing shit.
Hmm.
And so going with him, you just be in a room full of nothing but, air ordnance, right? Guided missiles and bombs and everything
Right.
else. And you just go through it. And he'd be like, point to this. What's this? What's this? What's that? And you'd have to answer them all. If you got it wrong, he's like, you fucking stupid Air Force, and you're like, fuck you. And you just keep pushing harder and harder, and
Yeah.
then, but yeah, you just had it all memorized, all done, and that was some trying moments. Like, fuck, I almost failed out of school, right? I failed, you never forget that one, right? You fail a GBU test, right?
Yeah. Well, I didn't.
What was the
Uh,
GBU? Oh,
I'm
sorry.
just kidding.
Yeah. No,
The
it
only
was the
ones I got,
Spencers.
I failed even worse. I got ADOPS. That's the one I
Okay.
failed. Computer
Yeah.
base in like the core.
Oh
I was,
man.
I was so embarrassing because the prelim I didn't fail anything. It was 100.
Yeah.
ASVAB was outstanding. Everything I come in cruising. They throw a computer in front of a redneck that's never used one. I was like a monkey. It reminds me of what is that? Zoolander, like when
Yeah.
they're
The
sitting there
files
hitting
in the computer.
the yeah, that was me. And I got like an 84 twice. And they're like,
Oh,
geez, they're like, come on, redneck.
we memorized all the aircraft. We memorized if I
Yep.
put in Thunderbolt, it'll pull up the A-10. If I put in Falcon, it'll pull up the F-16.
Right.
And so I memorized all the little names
Yep.
for the devices and what was in the title, that one word I know that would pull it up,
Yep.
because otherwise it would shut it down. Because the computers like ADOPS, we had a choice. We could use ADOPS or we could use microfiche, because we were the first class to test on it.
That's funny.
So we had to learn
Yeah.
both. Microfiche was horrible. I couldn't do that shit. So thank God
Oh,
there was a computer,
man. I did
because
that when I was a kid. My mom, she was a dispatcher at Tennessee Wildlife. So like
okay.
they would call in like a license plate and then she'd tell me the name and I go and I look it up in microfiche. That's how old I am.
Yeah, microfiche was tough for me. So
Yeah.
luckily the computer was there,
Mm-hmm.
and it was able to just like, okay, if I look this up, I can kind of find it. I can work my way through it.
Right.
So, but yeah, sweating it on a test, like, so I failed a dispenser's test,
Mm-hmm.
and then just because it was like, it wasn't you could say bullshit thing, but you have to stay in the game mode, right?
Oh yeah,
Like,
100%.
I was working on a dispenser, I did it, it was perfect, and he looks at me, he's like, "Are you done?" I'm like, "Yeah." I went through a mental checklist. I'm like, I'm done. He's like, "Okay, cool, you failed." I'm like, "Fuck." And I'm like,
Yeah.
"Why?" And he's like, "That's a dispenser you're working on, right? So you did everything perfect, you diffused it, everything else. What are you gonna do with a dispenser that still has 200 of these in it? You took care
Yeah.
of the two on the ground. What
Yeah.
are you gonna do now?" And I was like, I would cut my sandbags up, stuff in the hole, use whatever remaining line I have. I'd pull back in for my pulling lines, hook and line stuff, and I would tie this thing up and get it
Yep.
prepped for removal. He's like, "Awesome. Maybe you'll do that on the next test." And I was
Dang.
like, "Okay, thanks, Mark." And the next day, I got hosed with a what was it, a CVU? Just beep it, it'll be
Yeah.
even more mysterious. But uh, so we get in there, and I'm taking care of the damn thing, and it's not supposed to touch, and he couldn't get a piece of paper through there. It was a little
Yeah.
rough going through, and it went through, but it's like touch, and he's like, "Yeah, sorry," and I'm like,
Yeah.
"Fuck." And
Yeah.
so I just went over and did, a bunch of pull-ups, and I did like the wing lifts on the one aircraft, and just
Mm-hmm.
PT'd myself real hard, so that I was just too tired to feel anything else. And
Right.
then, I went and had to go do a board, and the board guy, because it was two tests, right? So I got to go to the board and see if they're going to fucking keep me.
Yeah.
The guy in front of me that failed, Franco Mihalis, he was a fucking idiot. And like, he was Greek, and he like told him, "Hey, go fuck yourself," kind of thing. And
Yeah.
so they're freaking out in there because they told him they were dropping you, right, from training. And so
Yeah.
he lost it. And then they chased him down the hall. He was gone quick. I don't know
Dang.
what happened to him. But then they get all reset. I go in there, do the board. They're talking to you. It's a tape recorder, scaring the shit out of you. And they stop the
Mm-hmm.
tape and they look around like, "All right, you're doing okay. Don't fuck up anymore, okay?
Yeah.
We're going to keep you in training." I'm like, "Okay." And then they click the tape back on. Like, the board has decided to remain you in training, and granted that you cannot fail any more tests. You have a do or die test coming up this week. We're going to roll you right back into another class. And I was like, wow. So
Nice.
did some prep work, did it. I had a disposal I had to do, and it was pouring down rain. None of the tape is sticking to the wooden blocks that were symbolizing, C4 blocks.
Yeah. Yeah.
Everything's falling apart. And it came down to like, I have to make this happen, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's no excuses. You can't look at an instructor and say, "Well, the tape's not sticking," kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So, I just started digging the dirt as fast as I could with my e-tool and filled up my little wheelbarrow that I had that was supposed to be in my truck. And I
Yeah.
just started filling up with fucking dirt. And as the rain's
Yeah.
coming down, I started making thick mud. And I just started packing it around this fucker. And I
Nice.
just, like a huge beaver dam, I just packed all the mud around it and packed it so all my explosives were lined up where they're supposed to be, and just kept packing it with mud. And then put sticks in there, so I knew where I was supposed to do my, my cap in when I finally got to it. Capped all my shit in, went around. Instructor's like, "Wow." He's like, "This is like watching an animal work," because I just covered head to toe
Right.
in mud and just grime. He's like, good Lord. He's like, this looks like a giant turd, but he started cutting it apart with a knife so he wouldn't disturb it and doing all the
Yeah.
measurements. He's like, that's perfect, man. He got one on each
Yeah.
side, right where it's supposed to be. He's like, it's not pretty, but you passed. And I was like, holy fuck. I just laid in the mud, let it rain on me.
Happy. Yeah.
So happy. Yeah. I was just reinvigorated at that point.
I feel like
And
that was
then,
like that's the like key element to an
yeah,
ED tech to be successful is their ability to adapt and improvise in situations.
yeah. And to learn that hopefully in training, right?
Oh
You
yeah.
know, when it's not all on the line,
Right.
kind of thing. But to have it happen there, that really reinvigorated, like, holy shit, okay, I can do this.
Right.
And I can find a way. There's always going to be a way to win,
Right.
you know,
And
and then hold on to that mindset, as I went through the rest of training, it was easy, grades went up, never really missed, nothing less than 100 on the test after that.
right. It seems like you use physical activity and exercise as like a stress reliever. Did that carry on all the way
It
through
did.
EOD?
Yeah,
Okay.
it did. It carried through UOD because it was always, it was it was a stress reliever. It kept you so that in situations where you felt like you were helpless and you couldn't do anything,
Right.
that's the one thing I could do, right? I know I could go
Yeah.
for a run. I know I could do push-ups. I could lift weights. I could do something, right?
Yeah.
And that was
I'm right there with
productive
you.
because that kept it so that I would be able to, still do the job, right? Not to say that I didn't drink, and one of the, like
Yeah.
on one of my deployments, it came close call, and I'm like, you know what? I think I'm gonna do some other shit. I'm gonna start smoking too. I'm like, my time is
Seen
not
that a
long
lot
in this
too.
world. I think I'm gonna start
Yeah, it's what I
doing all
did.
kinds of shit.
Yep.
You know?
Same. It seemed to be a thing that a lot of us did, just self-medicate, as well as like the whole, I guess I'm going to circle this back into something you said earlier.
Yeah.
The fact that we had several people that we knew either, get hit hard or died.
Yeah.
And it really put it in perspective. I don't know about you, and this may be an insensitive question. If it is, just ignore it. But I never really feared dying at all until I hit Afghanistan. And then I got hit a few times back to back to back in 3 weeks. And
Yeah.
that's the first time I've ever felt fear. So like every time before that, I just assumed it was going to happen. I was like, whatever. So I was
Yeah.
drinking, I was smoking, I was a train wreck outside of
Oh yeah.
EOD.
That 4 to 6 months you may have had off before you go deploy again
Yeah.
because you were going 6 months on, 6 months off, kind of thing.
I live like a
You know,
rock star.
oh, I live like that was my last 6 months on Earth,
Yeah,
and
100%.
that's it.
Yeah.
No savings, no future plans, all
Because
my
I was going to
shit,
deploy
you
and
know,
make $40,000, or I
yeah,
wasn't going to come back. So it's like,
right, yeah,
yeah,
yeah. All of a sudden wasn't going to be my problem. So it
yeah,
was, all my stuff was packed up in a storage shed, all boxed
hmm,
up, taped up, everything good to go, and I just handed like a manila folder to my folks, kind of thing. Like, hey,
yeah,
here's the keys, here's everything you need,
yeah,
kind of stuff. And it was just unspoken, like, I'll see you guys soon, but if you need anything, it's all right there, because I don't want to pay
right,
rent in a place I'm not living at for the next 6 to 7 months.
right. Put it all in storage.
Yeah.
So looking back on your career in EOD, like what are some of the highlights? What are some of the things you take away? Like, I mean, I know if it's anything like mine, it was like, it was pretty cool. It was fun.
Man, it
I'm
was,
awesome that made it through,
yeah.
but I wouldn't take it back for anything. It was
I
amazing.
wouldn't. I wouldn't. Yeah. Anything that ever bubbles up to be negative, it's countered by at least 10 things that are positive
Right.
because it was defining. I made sure at the end of my career that it didn't, have to be like that's who I was, that's who I always, gonna be kind of thing, because you can't do that. But when I was in doing it, that was you sold yourself to it, right? You're in it 100%.
Right.
You had to be, right, because that's how you're going to survive. You took it
Hmm.
serious, you worked hard, and you kept other people straight, right, because you couldn't have them lapse or get sloppy,
Right.
kind of thing. And I wasn't the same person that I was at home at a base as I was deployed, right? Like, because
Right.
you probably talked to some of the guys around my team, there was definitely lots of times where I was just a dick.
Yeah.
I mean,
Oh,
I
so
was on
serious.
people's ass, like,
Yeah.
and just ripping them,
Yeah.
because that was, it's better than paperwork, but a good ass chewing will stick with you so that you'll learn that lesson,
Yeah.
and you'll remember that, like, I had a kid, he went to go take the Humvee to go fuel it up, right?
Yeah.
But our Humvee was staged and it had like, our vest on the top, our helmets there, my
Hmm.
night vision goggles, all my shit was right on top of the hood. And, it's right there. So when we run over to it, we could throw it on,
Right.
and be ready to roll. Because from the time we got the phone call to the time we were at the gate, I mean, we could be dressed in the Humvee, have all the shit fired up and over there ready to SP in less
Like
than
10
nine
minutes.
minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, just that's fucking fast.
Right.
So no matter what it was, even if it was just like a couple times, it was just us solo. We go
Hmm.
screaming over there to the SP point. There's no one there. And then we get on the radio like, hey, EOD, we're putting you with the platoon that's already out. Just go out solo and go
Right.
down the road. They're down 200 meters down, right in Ouija. And you're like,
Yeah.
oh, fuck, this is fun. They put
Yeah.
our rollout song on for our solo exit from the fob,
Right.
like John Cena, we're fucking, let's do this. Here we come.
Yeah.
But,
Uh,
yeah, it was just, man, night and day, uh, being there versus, being back home kind of thing.
right. Did you stay in for the whole 20?
I did. I stayed in. I did 20 years and 5 days.
Not too many over. Do you feel like you got out because the tempo kind of died off and it was just like, man, or was
No,
it like a personal choice?
it was a personal choice because I would have stayed longer,
Yeah.
but the problem was I felt like I would had passed my prime
Okay.
because we weren't going to be in wartime situations. I was
Right.
already doing the selection piece. I think if I had gone down and maybe had been transitioned from being the commandant at prelim and running the 7 level school,
Right.
uh, maybe if I'd gone down and just kind of been an instructor, maybe down in Florida, I could have hid out for the rest of my time, right? And just kind of teach, try to pass on some lessons learned in those particular areas, right?
Right.
Because the admin side of it, I wasn't good at. You know, Luckily, I had strong NCOs working with me when I was flight chief, and I had them do what was necessary to get guys medals, or
Right.
not medals, but get guys awards
Yeah.
and push to do those things that were important. It sucks that that little piece of wood or the team award or this
Yeah.
individual, hey, you're the shining, shining star of the month,
Yeah.
award. It mattered. It didn't matter to me at all. I thought it was fucking worthless because it didn't
Right.
it didn't pay homage to the overall picture, right? It didn't
Right.
help us work on an aircraft. It didn't help us keep people alive. It was like, what the fuck? You're not doing your real job, God, doing that thing.
Right.
But
I feel
I
like
made sure the guys had time to go to it and do it so they could still be competitive, and make rank. Hell, most of my troops now I see are like most of them are chiefs, or
that's amazing.
seniors,
Yeah.
and I'm like, fuck, I got it as a master, because that was it. I may have been able to hang around long enough to maybe get senior,
Yeah.
but my board scores weren't impressive. There wasn't a lot, and that kind of hurt too. Like shit, I used to be thought of as kind of good or important, or someone
Right.
you wanted on your team, and now
Right.
it's looking like I'm not going to make senior.
Do you think that's has anything to do with your perspective that maybe I know that when I was deployed a lot, like when I came back, I sucked at being Air Force. I was decent at EOD. I felt like I did pretty well on all my deployments, but when I came back, I was a shitty airman, and it was because all I wanted to do was be in that area, deployment where it was life death. Because to me, that all seemed simple as well as was something I was really good at, and I
It
enjoyed
did,
being a
yeah,
part of.
man. That simplicity was awesome because it was
Yeah,
while it was dangerous and very complex, right? And you're
yeah,
just riding the razor's edge, right? You're
yeah.
nonstop doing, checking your explosives, checking the robots, check this, check
Check the
that.
batteries, yeah,
Yeah,
all of
everything had
that.
to be perfect, this tight, And when you had some time to like breathe, you're like, man, let me have a smoke and a rip it, and like I'm gonna do it again because
Yeah,
I wanted
God, I
to make
hate
sure that it's not gonna
rip-its.
fail on me, right? And I've got, one is no, one is none and two is one. I got to
Right?
back up to the backup, you know, my shit's fucking solid. I'm ready to
Yeah,
do this, and all the crazy shit, like fuck. There was a lot of times we were out there like they never trained us for this shit.
yeah,
We're doing, helicopter inserts.
yeah,
Uh, fuck, I'm taking off all my clothes and I'm diving under a fucking bridge,
yeah,
coming under there, swimming up, trying to do shit. I'm like,
yeah.
I've got a fucking knife in my mouth. I look like one of those,
Ra-
like, this is the shit
Rambo.
you see on TV,
Yeah. Yeah. No,
You
it's
know?
or I don't know if you know Z, but I seen him field fab or like a long range antenna out of the wiring of the back of the Humvee,
Yeah.
like shit like that. And I'm just
Hmm.
like, I can't do that. I can drive the robot pretty well.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
I mean,
yeah,
just some
it was
incredible stuff that went on. You know, you see guys, you know, that was a true talent. Like all the guys who were like mechanics, you know, they're under there like, oh fuck. I saw a guy, he get on the jerk and you know, he went over, talked to some of the other mechanics over there under contract, and he comes back and
mhm.
I'm like, how are we doing? Is it good? We got a tune up, we got some other things done to it. I don't think you want to know. So but we're gonna be just
Yep.
fine. And I'm like, oh, okay. And
All
what
right.
used to be, you know, kind of a a gutless, jerv that we had that we liked to, we called it Fiona, but that now when you put your foot on the pedal, that motherfucker would almost peel out and just fucking go. I'm like, what the
Uh,
fuck did you do to this thing?
Gear
I'm like,
ratio.
Jesus, yeah.
Nice.
So I mean, hooked us up. You know, we had a loudspeaker. They ran, the stereo stuff. We had a loudspeaker on top of the vehicle. We're playing,
Yeah.
you know, Purple Haze, loud as fuck, you know, over the
In the middle of a
loudspeakers
tick.
in the middle of a
Yeah.
tick. It's like, Jesus Christ. Or it could be Miley Cyrus, Party in the USA. You never know what the
Uh,
flavor is going to be that would be totally
uh,
opposite of what you think would be good music for a firefight.
if we ever got low in the back, it was always Taylor Swift. And I was like,
Mm-hmm.
God,
No.
another one. All right. So now you get back into the real world.
Yeah,
Did you start noticing any issues? Like, or I'm imagining you did, or you wouldn't be here talking to me.
I did.
So when did you
Yeah.
start noticing some negative impacts of maybe PTSD? Maybe it was, just trying to get back into the real world.
It
Like, what'd
was
you see and
it
how
was
has it
the
impacted
times
you?
when I was just trying to do normal stuff, like standing in
Yeah.
line, right? So I'm trying to
Yeah.
wait. I'm trying to wait in line at like a store or a fast food place, and I would
Hmm.
notice people just like fucking up, right? Man, you're not doing that, you know,
Yeah.
efficient. I'd see inefficiencies in weird
Hmm.
places, and it would make me angry.
Hmm.
I'm like, fuck, you could do this so much better, and you wouldn't fuck up
And
my
when you
food.
say angry, you mean angry,
I mean, angry,
not
like
annoyed.
not annoyed,
Yeah.
like it's boiling underneath, and I'm just like,
Yeah.
man, like I ripped a fucking kid's ass at fucking Waterburger. Like
Yeah.
I'm waiting in line to get a burger outside. I've had a rough day at fucking work. I'm going back to the house, and this kid comes walking out. He's got my food, right? He has to bend down to the car, and so he hands me the food, and then there's the drink, and I see it,
Yeah.
and in that microsecond I see it, there's soda on top of the lid, right?
Yeah.
Where if you like put a straw in, there's a little bit of soda that comes out, or when you put the lid
Hmm.
on, if it's really full, some comes out in the crease, right? Well, he
Yeah.
takes it and he goes to put it in the window and he leans it forward towards me. And when he
And
does that,
pours
the
on you.
fucking soda pours on me. I'm talking like
Yeah.
maybe 3 ounces, right? At the most. Hits
Yeah.
me and I'm like,
Not a
what
lot.
the fuck? And he's frozen, just looks at me and I'm like, hey, you motherfucker. And I just lost it. That man just
Right.
ripped him. The car is like rocking. And I'm just like knife handed him through the fucking window, at his face.
Yeah.
And he's just like sheet white. He's like, oh, I'm like, don't just fucking stand there. Go get some goddamn napkins. And he's like,
Yeah.
just disappears, comes back with napkins. And he's like, here you go. And I'm like, thank you. By that, I'm like, I'm a little embarrassed now that I've lost my shit.
Right. I
You
was about to
know,
say, looking back, do you feel that reaction was normal?
no, it was horrible.
I know. I have a million of them too, and I'm so embarrassed. Like I've apologized to my family 100 times. I'm like,
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
sorry.
Yeah. I mean, coming back, like one of the first appointments, I'm driving home uh, from Clovis in New Mexico down to Dallas to visit my family. And I got ran off the road, right? And
Wow.
so I got run
Yeah.
off the road. I kind of peel out a little bit through a cornfield. And then, the car stops to see if I'm okay. And by the time I'm turned back around and getting out, I've got a gun in my hand and I'm fucking drawing down on these people. I'm like, what the fuck is your problem?
Right.
Like
Because
you're
you
trying to
went
run
back
me
to
off the road.
Iraq or Afghanistan, and you're like,
Yeah. I was
yeah.
like, this is not good. I had the adrenaline through the roof. This is what I feel comfortable with. This is a threat. I need to identify this threat and keep them covered, kind of thing. And they just like freaked the
Yeah.
fuck out and got in their vehicle and hauled ass.
Right.
And by then
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm 5 minutes down the road going, holy shit, that's not good. I don't even remember
Yeah.
pulling my weapon, I'm like,
Right. I remember when I came back, I used to live next to Kip, and I pulled into the little parking area there next to her apartments and
yeah,
walked up to my apartment door, and noticed the door next to it opened. And I don't want to sound racist or anything, but like when you're in Iraq or Afghanistan, everyone's Muslims,
Hmm.
traditional. They're wearing the headdress and everything.
Yeah.
And these two walked out the door briskly, and I did the same thing. I reached down to my hip to draw my 9 out, but I didn't have it with me, you know. And then I just smiled and slowly unlocked the door and went inside. And I was
Oh
like,
yeah.
Jesus, Jonathan. I was like, you're an idiot.
Yeah. I've done the reach kind of draw when the one hand's up and go to the hip kind of
Yep.
thing a couple times.
Yep.
And now I don't fault myself for it. But I'm like, hey, at least I'm flinching in a way that's productive, And now I just kind of like,
Yeah.
I may just like do a pat, like, whoa, like, what's happening here? And that, but a lot of times I've really been able to help dial in, like, and use that Occam's razor kind of thing that says, the simplest solution is going to be what it is. If I'm in a restaurant, I know there's a pretty good chance someone's going to drop somewhere or drop a glass or there's going to be a
Yeah.
loud bang. These are the sounds that I know can happen here. And by the
Right.
time it happens, you can hear it, and your brain can register it and know that that's a glass, that wasn't a shot,
Yep.
or that's a knife, or that doesn't even sound like it could be like a scuffle, right? And you
Yep.
can look at other people's faces around the room and see, right, there's no fear. There's no one like, staring, dropping, their food and going, holy fuck, right?
Hmm.
Kind of thing. So still staying
I
tuned into your surroundings, I think still help.
Yeah, I think we're conditioned to think a certain way, and the more times we deploy, the more times we spend over there, the more like reinforce that pattern of thinking is.
Yeah, because there
So
was
when we
never a
come back,
downtime, right? Because you could be
yeah, no,
you
yeah,
could be shot by the TCN that's working on your base. Or, if you're
yeah,
sharing a base with some Afghanis, they may fucking lose it, you know?
yeah. If you're sleeping outside the wire,
Yeah.
it's like
So
you
outside the
sleep
wire, I almost
maybe
shot
an
a
hour
donkey
that
in the
night.
face in Afghanistan
Yeah,
because
yeah,
I'm
uh,
hanging out in a hammock and a donkey comes up, in the middle of the night. We've been had, firefights all fucking day and night. And then we're hanging out because there's no room in this little fucking Marine Marsoc fob. And so we're just
mhm,
sleeping out there. I'm like, well, it's shitty, but at least, we got to have balls to come after us, right? We took some mortars and some small stuff throughout the night and harassed with fire. But then I
yeah,
hear like step, 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 step. And I'm sleeping in my hammock with my fucking pistol. And
right,
and I'm like, is that steps? I'm like, it's still like super dark and I can't see anything. And then all of a sudden I just, flash over and bam, there's a donkey face like right there sniffing me. And I'm like, whoa, man. And he, I'm like, get out of here. And he like brays and takes off. And then at that point,
right.
it's just kind of funny. I'm like, holy shit, this is nuts. The donkey, that's going to come sniffing in the night, scared the shit out of me.
Yeah. So aggression. Did you have anything else? Like, I mean, share as much as you like, but I know I definitely self-medicated with alcohol. I was womanizer there for a bit. It was like anything that I could find that was a relief
Yeah.
to like this stress and chaos. I was all about it. But even though I did work out steel, which
Yeah.
man, looking back, like that was a healthy outlet. And I wish I would have done more of that and
I
less of the
know.
other. But
I know.
at the time I didn't pick, it was like all of these make me feel better. I'm going to do all of
Right.
them.
I'm doing all of them. Yeah. Yeah. I the same way. I'd still work out in PT, but I binge drink, I wouldn't drink during the week, but I would, just blast it on the weekend.
Yeah.
And, and there wasn't anything there for me, right? Because the drinking didn't really do a lot for me. It made it so I could be in a social situation and kind of relax, and,
Right.
and be a little more fun to be around. But
Normal. I was
yeah,
always trying to be
normal.
normal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But without that, man, I didn't want to be around people. I would look at them and like, man, I don't know who the fuck this person is, and I just
Right.
get annoyed.
And didn't care who they were.
No, I didn't because it wasn't part of my
Yeah.
world, right? I'm like,
Yeah.
you're not. I don't mind because you don't matter.
Yeah.
I'm like, you're not important to me. You're not on my team. This is nothing that's going to be to help me.
Yeah. So
So
what things go ahead.
no, I'm just go ahead, man. For the prompt, it was just rambling.
What things did you do to like improve the quality of your life or when did you decide? Like, I feel like everybody had a moment in life that are like, okay, it's time to get my shit together.
Yeah,
Did you have one of those moments?
I had more and more instances where I was just getting angry, and I was starting to find I didn't have outlets, right? Like trying to lift
Right.
weights. So once I got out of the military and we had moved, luckily a buddy got me a job, so I'm working as a contractor.
Hmm.
And it's just a desk job. You go down, sit down there. You know, you're not working super hard, but you're putting in 6 to 8 hours. And then you're done, and that's it. You don't have to bring
Yeah.
anything home. You don't have to think about it. but I was divorced within like, less than 4 or 6 months after I got out of the military,
Yeah.
because she, didn't want to be there anymore. And so, you know,
Yeah.
and then, so then, yeah, I was like, fuck, I'm meeting all these, I'm looking like a statistic right now. I'm
Yeah.
newly divorced. I'm out of the military. I'm not happy. I don't like my job, but it pays the
Right.
bills. It's just me, and the dogs. The dogs made it so that I knew I had to be around, but I was just not a nice person to be around, and just didn't have anything going, right? So I just eventually got to where I stopped drinking, and so that helped provide some clarity.
Yeah.
Not having the booze or kind of thing, and then just started trying to work on what's going to make me happy, right? And still somehow
Hmm.
trying to find what's my purpose now. I had to go to
Right.
counseling, went to the VA and started seeing some psychiatrists and stuff, just to try to prove, like, and show them, like, hey, this is what I'm doing. Is this healthy? Is this
Right.
something that is productive for me? Because you're a professional, I'm not. I'm trying to,
How'd you
I'm not trying to ad hoc it
find,
here.
what'd you find out of therapy? I'm just curious. You went through the VA,
I did.
right?
The VA therapy was, first couple doctors I had was shitty. They didn't know how to
Mm,
connect, and it was just, there was a lot of stuff there, right, to unpack.
right.
And the psychiatrist is like, you only give them parts and pieces,
Hmm.
and some of it you're not going to get anything out of it unless you tell them, right? And so
Right.
I still have my guard up, for like the first 2 or 3 sessions, and by then I'm getting moved to a different doctor, and so it was kind of hard to find one
And
that
then you
was
have to
gonna,
start all over again.
yeah, because you have to feel them
Yeah.
out. Are they getting judgy? What kind of notes are you taking? Are you coming for my guns? Kind of stuff.
Right.
What are
That's a
you
big
gonna
fear of
do?
mine too.
Because I don't want to be like in a situation where I can't, where I'm not in charge of, like, I can't do my bills, right? Someone else do it for me. Like, I can't have weapons because apparently I can't be trusted with a weapon. And it's like, not to
Right.
hurt myself, like, for other people. And I'm like, why the fuck are other people scared of me?
Hmm.
Not to,
Yeah. No,
and maybe I feel
that was
shitty, but
one.
I'm like, I'm one of the people, like, amongst a whole bunch of others are probably military. You want me to have a weapon on me, right? So I can actually fucking
Yeah.
do something, because I will do something.
Yeah. I was about to, that's what I was going to hit on. I feel like I'm terrified of the whole PTSD stigma and the whole, I know the importance of the mental health check on people prior to buying guns.
Yeah,
As a veteran with PTSD, I'm a bit uncomfortable with PTSD and the mental health check prior to getting a gun because of that reason. And, and because of that, and because of the VA system in itself, I find it hard to be honest with a VA therapist
it is, because,
because of certain consequences of that honesty.
right, because they have to take notes, and then for them now, because they're helping you, they've got some kind of onus, right, that says,
Yeah.
hey, you know, you had some kind of trigger, but it could be, a misunderstanding that you had with them, or when you
Yeah.
were trying to
Or
convey a feeling,
miscommunication.
right?
Yep.
And then somehow they've interpreted what you were trying to say or do incorrectly. And now
Yeah.
all of a sudden they're like, well, we should think about something bigger. And you're like, what do you mean? And then it gets super defensive, right? You've shut down. They think now you're going over the edge. It's scary,
Right.
you know?
Yeah. Do you feel like I don't know, in your military career that you had to be, I don't know, I'm trying to think of a way to say it. I knew that there's some problems with me, to put it
Yeah.
like simply, but I never got help. I never wanted to get help because I knew if I got help and they found me, unfit for duty, I couldn't do my job anymore. And I
Yeah.
never wanted to do that because
Yeah,
I
I
loved it. And
tried. I went to a counselor in Hawaii when I was stationed there as a flight chief, right, to try to show that, hey,
yeah,
you can go to counseling and you can still stay
yeah,
keep your job, right? Now, granted, I
uh-huh,
didn't go, like, anything after that. I wasn't going to, like, base to be on PRP or some of these other
right,
things, or maybe what I had was not too much, because the psychiatrist at the time, and honestly, I didn't tell her everything, right? I told her enough. And
yeah,
she looks at me and she's like, you
yeah,
got stress. That's normal. You need to do, X, Y, and Z, take a little time to relax and try to break up a little monotony as best you can without that change to your regimen being too scary, right? Or causing too much stress. And so
right,
some of that was semi helpful, but I knew it was bullshit because I hadn't done the deep dive with it, where it says I have zero
yeah,
feelings. Talking to some other buddies the other day, like, this is, recent between, it's like the suicide training was off the fucking charts, nonstop in your fucking face. So it's always right there. You know? And what do? You look at it like, well, if it was me, I'd do this. You know, that's how I would off
Yeah.
myself. And then I look at it and say,
Yeah.
these are the three things that would have to, like, you know, these, if these switches get flipped, that green lights me to say, hey, I think I'm at a place where I could be justified, you know, in my own suicide. You know,
Yeah.
which sucks, but that's mainly because you never want to be a burden to anyone, right? At least I
Right.
don't. I don't
No,
want to be a
100%.
burden. I don't
I
want,
don't, yeah.
you know, people have to take care of me, or I don't want to fail them, or that kind of shit. And if it came down to that, that would be one where, like, me being here is holding the family back, or me being here is holding everyone back. I don't have a purpose. I just, you know, I'm just fucking breathing. That's it. You know, and everybody's got to stay away from me because, you know, I can't be in social situations. I can't be normal. I'm not the one that can go to your barbecues or, you know, do this other shit. You know, I can barely, you know,
Right.
function because I'm still fucking worried about crap.
Yeah. I find that it's pretty common in at least our career field, and it seems like it bleeds over to first responders too, that none of us want to be a burden, which honestly that leads to why we don't want to get help, because a lot of us don't feel like we're worthy of the help. We're like, oh, well, we're still fit, we're still functioning,
Yeah.
we're still capable of doing all this stuff. And it's
Yeah.
like,
And you
well,
get defensive when someone says you're not, you know?
right, because we want to be the best,
Yeah.
because we have to be perfect, it seems
Maybe
like.
it takes like intervention. Like maybe it's that having that partner, whether it's a wife or a friend or someone else, like to come with you, right? And say, what are you
Yeah.
here for? You know, that's like a team session, you know, that says, like, what do you mean? Like, well, I'm here to let you know that the thing story just told you was total bullshit. Like, what? Like, yeah, he
Yeah.
fucking hates golf. You know, he just said that he likes to go to relax golf. He doesn't. He hates it. You know,
Hmm. Hates it.
hates it. You know, and just, you know, that's it. He goes there to fucking get shit faced and drive drunk in carts. You know, kind of stuff,
Yep.
and have someone to sit there and help either provide, you know, relevance to your story or help base it down. And that might be, you know, maybe that doesn't need to be someone who's your spouse that you have to go home with and live with. You know, maybe it takes a buddy that knows you.
Hmm.
You know, say, hey, put 5 people on this
Yeah.
piece of paper that you could think you could sit through a session that kind of knows you, and at random we'll call them and bring them in via Skype or something else. Maybe that can help. You know, so you can
Yeah.
help calm on the shit. You know.
I think some people it's them, they have to make that decision to
Yeah, you
they're
can't help
willing to
anybody that doesn't
admit
want help.
that,
You know.
yeah, they have to admit that their life's a mess and that it needs to change. And until they do that, they're just going to keep trugging along,
Yeah.
and and the ones of us who have gotten help, we look at them like, fuck, man, we wish we could help, but he chose the hard path. This is the hard swimmer. We'll be there when you get tired,
Yeah. Yeah, and then we'll do what we can. But outside of that, like, fuck, man, you're getting all defensive. You're pushing everybody away.
Yeah.
You know, and all I can do is let you know that, you know, and try to be there
Yeah.
to help you. You know, or always,
Yeah.
we may argue or
Always here.
always here. You know, no matter what happens,
Yeah.
I'm still here.
Yeah. So what other things are you doing in your life to improve? Because it sounds like you still got a little bit of numbness, or you had numbness, and I can relate to that.
Yeah,
I lived years just feeling gray. I wasn't happy, wasn't sad. It was just blah,
right. Because nothing gave me the fix. Right. I mean, I rode
Yeah.
motorcycles. You know, did all kinds of shit, and none of it gave me a thrill or an adrenaline rush. You know.
Yeah.
I don't think it was until I found purpose in, in being a family, right? I found a woman who had a kid, and coming into that
Hmm.
situation, I wasn't like Captain Save a Ho, but it was she was having it rough, as a single mom, and I felt like I could help, but it was more than
Right.
just that, right? I love her, and then I love the kid. She's like mine. Treat her like she's my own. And, now we had a
Yeah.
baby, together. 11 months
Hmm.
ago. So it's that gave me purpose to be a dad, and that gave me reason to be better, reason to try to find ways to care and feel, because I wanted to
Right.
make sure I was providing a decent example for the kids, and then be a
Hmm.
good husband to her. It gave me purpose. It gave me something again to do, that had core values. I had to serve them before myself. That's something I'm
Right.
used to, right? Make sure they're good, they're
Yeah.
fed, everybody's semi happy. Okay, you did your homework, brush teeth, you're in bed, you're safe. All right, good night. But then on my
Right.
own, I was able
That's
to
what.
still, find some other stuff because that can't be it, right?
Right. No, I was about to say, even and like that could be used as motivation to like maybe self-evaluate some of those hard aspects of our lives and really get after it, because it's like, okay, it's no longer me impacting me, it's me impacting us as a
Yeah,
family
yeah. And
unit.
those kids, man, kids are they're real perceptive and they're
Impressionable.
impressionable and they can
Yeah.
feel when you're off, and it
Yeah.
depends on, I know EOD folks, like the most of us, were at least, my wife or other people that say it's palatable. She's like, I know when you're in a bad mood. I feel it in the air. I almost don't have to see you,
Hmm.
because everyone in
Yeah.
the room knows you're not in a good mood. And when you're not happy,
Yeah.
no one else is probably going to be happy, kind of thing. And that's tough to hear,
Yeah.
because you're like, shit, what am I supposed to do? Fake it sometimes, and just try to be happy when there's times where I don't feel anything, you know?
Yeah.
So yeah, I still have to fake it
Yeah.
sometimes, it's not fucking perfect. And,
No, it's a process, you can't go from, I don't think, broken
yeah.
emotionally to fixed in a quick
Well, it comes
process,
back to like what we're heading to is like, if I don't get a workout in or something that pushes me like that, whether it's a trip to the dojo or to do mixed martial arts or to hit the gym or to ride a bike,
Yeah.
something physical, that physical piece
Hmm.
gives me either the dopamine or whatever chemical I need that keeps me straight
Yeah.
and helps me be normal and rational, right?
Yeah.
Because otherwise, I feel like I'm always constantly feeling I try to do best is like when you're hangry, right? That's like that
Yeah.
irrational, like just anger because you're like, fuck, you're not moving fast enough, or this is too slow. Everything irritates you, but
Hmm.
you're hangry is what it is, right? And so, yeah, I
Yeah.
try to make sure I'm eating and when I'm doing the workout stuff as best I can. And when I can't, I just go for a walk or I do some stretching. I just do something
Yeah.
for like that 30 minutes, 40 minutes, because I know it's going to help me for the rest of the day, you know?
Yeah. No, I'm same way. I love it. Especially currently, I'm not really working, so I just go to jujitsu
Yeah.
like twice a
Well, I
day.
think you have to choose the
It's
right one, right? I think through
amazing.
jujitsu, some mixed martial
Yeah.
arts, other stuff, there's the discipline there again, and it's learning
Yeah.
control, right, with aggression,
Yeah.
because you have to trust that
Hmm.
partner when you're rolling around on the mat, right? Because otherwise, you can
Right.
fucking hurt somebody pretty quick, break an arm,
Hmm.
dislocate something, and that
Yeah.
you don't want to break that trust, right? Because you could be done
No.
there, right? If you mess that up or lose control, or
Yeah.
the other way around, you're messing with someone who's much better than you, and then you lose control and they go and hurt you, right? Just to
Right.
put you in your
You got to
place.
protect
Yeah,
yourself too. For me, it really helps with the well, it helped. I'm a little bit past it now, but when I first started, I noticed that I was always super tense and I was always breathing heavy,
yeah,
like I was getting assaulted, like the whole time. And then eventually I realized, okay, this is a time when I'm in
yeah,
control, or this is a time where it's pretty neutral. I'm not really in a threatful position. I'm like,
yeah,
and then it like helped me process with my brain deciding threat, no threat,
yeah,
threat, no
yeah.
threat,
It's
which then
calm
I
under
could apply
pressure,
to, yeah, and then I could apply it to real world, and then, I started noticing, I don't know, a lot of us have issues with grocery stores. I don't know if it's because it's crowded or if it's just because there's one or two exits, you know what I
To me,
mean? Like,
it's
but
too many choices.
it could be that and the noise. I feel like it's really loud always.
Yeah,
So it's like, I hated that, but I did this, prolonged exposure therapy,
hmm,
and in there was they made us do like activities, and like
mm,
one of my activities was going to the grocery store. So I go to the grocery store and I'd use the same process that I use in jiu-jitsu, that deep breathing, just making sure that I was
yeah,
present in the moment. There's no threat here, we're solid, and then I could feel it de-escalate that situation. And I feel like jiu-jitsu for me, I've been able to apply that technique like anytime I get my heart elevated,
yeah,
and I feel like, okay, I'm uncomfortable, I just go straight to like, okay, I'm on the bottom position,
hmm,
you're safe, everything's cool. Just take the deep breaths, evaluate the situation, de-escalate your heart rate, and then boom, I'm back to where I want to
yeah,
be.
yeah. Where am I? Am I safe? And I ask myself that
Yeah.
constantly. Where am I? Am I
Yeah.
safe?
Like, it's like, realistically, what is it? What is the possible threats here? And then it's like you can't come up with anything rational, and you're like, all right,
Yeah.
it's time to stop.
Yeah. I mean, is there
Really,
a
really your
chance,
shit.
like in some of the grocery stores I go to that, some pampered kid's going to lose his shit and run in there with, with mom or dad's gun? Sure. That
So
it
slim.
could happen, right? But it's just astronomical,
Yeah.
right? That it could happen.
Yeah.
Out of the 300 million plus people in the United States, is it going to happen to me at this location here, and now?
Most likely not. Yeah.
Right.
Same.
But if it does, hey, we'll kind
Uh
of be ready for you.
exactly. If it does, we're there.
Yeah.
We've been waiting for 20 years.
I know, like, fuck yes, finally. I still giggle like every time I'm on a plane. I'm like, please let there be a bomb on this plane. I'm like,
I know, right?
just
I'd be like,
once.
I would be a hero again for a
Yeah.
day.
All I'm looking for is first class tickets for the rest of my life. That's all I'm really looking for.
Yeah, I've already got it figured out. We're just going to put it on the back door. We're going to stack
Yeah.
pillows and blankets and just drench them in water, because if it goes off, it's just going to kick the door out.
Like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, cool. I almost stabbed a kid, in a flight in Europe, which was kind of embarrassing. Uh, we're on a flight, and luckily in Europe, when you flew for the military, you had to buy non-refundable tickets when you did VIP missions and some of these
Mm-hmm.
other missions. And
Yeah.
so the only non-refundable tickets you could get in Europe, or the fully refundable, not non-refundable, the fully refundable tickets you get in Europe were all first class. And so you're flying around Europe like a king. It's great. But we were coming back from, I think we're coming back from Poland, and we're in first class. It's late, we're getting in Germany late, and we're gonna land, and they say, "Oh, hey, it's full. We're gonna have to, something's happened on the ground. We're gonna have to circle the airport." And so, if you have any connecting flights, hit the button, let your stewardess know. You may miss some connections because we're gonna be up here for like probably another 45 minutes to an hour. It's like shit.
Mm-hmm.
So hopefully we're gonna have fuel. But we're just circling the airport. Well, apparently in the back, a kid, I say kid, but he was kind of like an adult, is going to miss his flight,
Yeah.
kind of thing, unbeknownst to me. But I'm sitting there first class, and we got shoulder out kind of the aisle, kind of dozing it off as we're flying around. And this guy goes bolting past me, blasts me in the shoulder, right? And so that was enough to kind of spin him
Yeah.
and slow him down. And when I look, all I see is like, he's dressed kind of weird. He's got his shirt tucked into his pants weird. He's got a mustache on, a leather jacket, and he's got a fucking fanny pack over his head. He's holding it over his head. And I can see it's still in my mind right now, the two ends of it like flopping around. And he's got it over his head, and he does the spin after he hits me, and he keeps going towards the front, where the pilots are. And I'm like, holy fuck. So I'm out of my seat, and I'm racing after this fucker, and I like, we had eaten. I grabbed a knife off some guy's fucking plate, because you get silverware in first class, and I've got this fucking knife, and I'm coming up high, and I'm like trying to pick which vertebrae I'm going to stick this in, in the back of his neck.
Yeah.
And the stewardess looks, and she sees him, and she sees me, and her eyes get twice as wide when she sees me versus him. And she reaches past and is like putting her hands up in my face. And I started slowing the brakes down, like, what the fuck is going on?
Yeah.
And this guy turns around, and he's handicapped. He's got kind of like Down syndrome and some other stuff. And he is worried about missing his flight because, he's not going to be able to see his parents. And I'm like, holy shit, let me put this down. And
sorry.
And I looked at her, I'm like, I'm going to go see, go to the
seat.
seat. You let me know if there's any way I can help. And I would just be back there,
Yep. And be like, I hope I never see
anyone
on this flight again.
But I was like, shit. I sit down, and finally they brought him back to his seat, did everything they need to. And she came to me, and she brought me a drink. And she's like, here's a beer. And I'm like, yeah, thank you. And she had one too. She's like, that was fucking scary. And I'm like, yeah, it was. Because I'm thinking, she thought it was scary maybe for other reasons. Me, I'm like, that's going to be a horrible incident that, hungover EOD tech stabs handicapped, German national on flight,
Right. Never allowed to travel outside the
US never again. Allowed to travel again,
Like, you have to walk or drive everywhere you go.
No more TDYs for you, buddy. Sorry.
Yeah. So what's next for you? So it seems like you got a pretty healthy routine to like stay level. Are you diving into anything on an emotional level to like improve that? Or is it just like, all right, this is where we're at for now?
It's a constant work to balance the going to the gym and like working out in the garage and then going to the dojo and then balancing family life and being there for them and trying to do all that. I mean, my hat's off to everyone I ever worked with for the last 20 years that actually had a family and
Mm-hmm.
had kids, and was still able to deploy and still able to
Right.
do all this shit. Cause I don't know if
Yeah.
I could have, because the entire time I look back on it now, every time I was deployed or on it, some of these missions, and everything else, I was either single or didn't have a, serious
Mm-hmm.
girlfriend kind of thing. Uh, or if I had a wife, it wasn't going great,
Yeah.
and it ended up, in divorce, either when I got back or before I
Yeah.
left.
I
So,
feel like I struggled a lot with emotional connection with people. Uh I guess mostly now women, because back then I was saying, like, I intentionally became single to deploy. I'd have
yeah,
friends that, females that I'd hang out with and stuff like that. But it was like, as soon as I deployed, I was 100% focused because I didn't want to be
yeah,
distracted.
I'm not going to call you.
Yeah. Be
I'm
like,
not going to send letters and notes. It's not who I can be.
yeah,
I can't be that person.
I'd be like, I don't have the bandwidth for it. Like when I'm over there, I'm 100% there, and you'd see a lot of people go over there with relationships. And some of those, like married couples, they crushed it. You look at them and you're like,
Yeah,
dang, like you guys did good. And then you see
yeah,
the others where, people are a hot mess while deployed, or, they're distracted. And it's like, you don't want to be that for your team, I felt like. So I was like,
no,
and I
no.
feel like that's carried over a little bit now. Like I find it, I don't know if it's that or if it's just hard to relate with people that don't have similar experiences in life. I don't know why that'd be a problem, but
I think it was easier for me to find the exact opposite.
really,
It's like, yeah, it was strange. Like, I found someone, my wife is extremely intelligent,
yeah,
right? And she's athletic, but she doesn't do, a whole lot of athletic stuff. Like now, we still like walk, work out, do
yeah,
whatever, but she's not like super competitive. It's not her thing, right?
hmm,
Uh, but she's, off the charts, fucking smart. So we can have those highbrow conversations. But she's, almost polar opposite of me, like politically.
yeah,
Uh, it's constantly like, what about this? Are you able to pull it out? And like, it's really great in her own field. And
hmm,
so having those opposite things, like, well, you have to respect each other's, boundaries, and then, like, wow, okay, you're really into your stuff. That's cool. I like that you're, into it. You find that so, passionate about what you do,
hmm,
you know, and then to have them not have any background in the military, right?
yeah,
Like they didn't have any family that was in. She doesn't know any of the real EOD folks other than a few that she's met,
yeah,
or stories that it's told, and so for her, it's still kind of new-ish,
hmm,
and she still kind of knows people. But I told her the good and bad. Like, hey, there's the goods and bad in this. You aren't angels, or anything.
yeah,
There's some bad shit that's gone down, but for the most part, it's 90% great motherfuckers. That'll
yeah,
take care of you.
100%. So do you have anything planned? Because working out and all that stuff, I feel like it keeps me level. It doesn't really improve anything at a deeper level. Are you going to explore anything in that direction?
I think for me, I'd have to continue to look at it. And I think I might be able to attempt to help myself by helping others too,
That's,
because I
yeah,
think that helping other people helps me see how they've dealt with it,
yeah,
and what they've been able to use to get them by.
right.
And then that might be something that I can say, well, hey, that's a cool little tool. Let me put that in my tool chest.
Yeah,
And then let me show you what tools I have. Maybe one of these would work for you,
yeah.
kind of thing.
No, I love it. That's what this started out as. It was just like, I'm curious about all of it. Like I think
Yeah.
next week I'm doing shoots. I don't know. Some lady, I'm talking to her about it's not EMDR, it's another type of EMDR. But anyways, it's just something I'm going to try. I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Like apparently they have high success rate, and I was like, okay, cool. I'll check it
I
out.
think, you would have, this is still on topic because it's here for the post traumatic stress stuff. I think something leading up to like the memorial, right? Because that's a big thing that happens every
Yeah,
year.
for us for
But
sure.
why not do something like preparatory, right? There's the golf tournament. There's all these little things that happen, right?
Yeah.
It gets kind of busy, and there's other stuff to do, but there's never anything that's been one of those like, hey, once you guys come out, we're gonna do an amateur jujitsu fucking session or lesson,
Yeah.
for PTSD. Once you roll out the demons or something,
Yeah.
come up with some cool catchphrase, but say, here's how you can use some of these things as a post-traumatic stress reliever.
Right.
Right. And it's not, I'm just going to punch the shit out of this bag, kind of stuff.
Yeah.
It's not just this jujitsu, right? I'm rolling because I'm in this position. I know, like you talked about, I have to slow my breathing down because otherwise I'm just going to look like a fish out of water.
Yeah. And you're
just
going
my
to
mouth is open,
gas
right?
out in like 3 minutes.
Right.
Yeah.
And I'll be gassed. I can't do anything. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And I just, now I'm just squeezing and grunting, and that's nothing. Right.
Yeah.
I don't have a plan. I haven't been figuring anything out.
Yeah.
So I think that might be something that could, be beneficial to say, hey, come down and do this in addition to that, right?
Yeah.
So it's a year, every year come down and let's trade like, skills on how to deal with post-traumatic stress, because we all have it. If you don't, you're probably going to have it, whether it's from leaving the military or dealing with the stress and now a post-war peacetime EOD, right? Because when I came in, it was peacetime, and then it went to war, and then it went to like peacetime right towards the end, as I started to get out. And then now the kids are doing something different, right?
Yeah. I talked to a few while I was there last time, and it was just like, it seemed like the mentality's definitely shifted to peacetime. And, that's alarming for me because I feel like we were really ill prepared when we jumped into it. And I just hope they keep the lessons.
I think we still
learned.
are.
I do too.
And
I really wish that
you would have to fire it back up. And I know I try to tell anybody need to, but like, if the shit hits a fan again and we have to move into Europe and play this game, you got to reach out and get some of the old guys, and have them come back and say, this is what you need to do to close this loop faster, right? The OODA loop, so we don't lose fuckers while you're trying to reteach the wheel,
exactly,
or reinvent it, kind of thing.
Yeah, I hope that doesn't happen. We'll see.
Because they did. They've got the Cobra curriculum and some of the stuff that's still on the shelf, but even then, I'm like, that wasn't the fucking best we could have done.
It wasn't.
It was a Band-Aid, because it was cheaper than going to the Army, and the Army was giving us shit training anyway. Right. All the training that we got that was quality was either contracted, from different companies. Like, thank God Team G was out there.
Yeah.
I know some people don't like Brandon's company, and I think, they have an opinion, but Brandon's company gave us what we needed when we needed it, and he fucking saved lives. And because his training, was what we fucking needed, because he listened to us and said, I think this is what we're going to get into. And right after we did the first deployment, this is what the fuck we got into.
Yeah.
We need this. And so he gave us that, and that was great. And, my hat's off to him. I'll be in debt for him for the rest of my life.
Yeah. He was actually there last time. That was the first time I seen him in like 6 years.
Yeah, man, I got to go back to this place. They're going to make up a TDY or something. So I go get some training from this company and get the government to pay for my trip.
Right. Go back, shoot the bear a little bit.
Oh yeah. Yeah. But those were great times and stories as well. But we needed that trained, because are we shooters? Are we door kickers? Are we all this other crap? No, but there was times where you needed to have those skills so you could get with the people you're with to get you to where you needed to go to do the EOD portion.
Right.
Right. Like a Navy EOD, I think a lot of times they forgot that they were EOD techs. They wanted to be SEALs and all this other shit. And when they got there, they forgot how to do the EOD part.
Right.
And that was what's great about Air Force, was the fact that we weren't awesome at some of this other shit, but we could pick it up pretty good, and we could get there and not be a hampering to the team. And then when we got there, we were really, really fucking good at the EOD part. Everybody wanted an Air Force team. There was, and I don't think anybody is going to fucking disagree with that.
Yeah, no, that's what I always heard, but I'm Air Force, so maybe that's just what they told us. But that, and I feel like we got a lot more experience per our rank, because we didn't just get rank gifted. We had to test for it, and it was a little bit slower process. So you get E5s, E6 in the Air Force that are on like 5th, 6th deployments, whereas the Army, it's an E6, E7, or E5, E6 coming in. That could be their first, so just
in less than a year.
Yeah, the quality experience.
I took an Army kid that we were with, like in Baghdad one time. We was Air Force team there, Army team there. We're sharing this little combat outpost and running ops out of there.
Yeah.
And he was talking to me in stories, and I went with him to talk the first call he had. And then when we left to talk, between there and getting out to his team, I'm like, pull him aside. I'm like, all right, no shit. You tell me what the fuck you've got going on and what you really need help with.
Yeah.
Okay. I know this is your first fucking call. And he's like, okay, what do I do when I get there? Establish fucking, safety.
Yep.
Make sure where you are is fucking safe. and then all constantly looking around you, right?
Yep.
Be on the clock and realize that after you're there about 20 minutes or so, there might get more. You
Yep.
might get
You
shot at.
got to pick it
You're
up.
going to be a
You're
fucking
on,
target.
yeah.
This is your tempo, right?
Yep.
And my guys have talked to your guys, so they kind of have something like going on, but you have to have the fucking answers. You can't be sitting there stewing. You can't, not have a fucking answer,
And
right?
don't waste time picking the perfect answer. You got to pick.
No.
You got to pick the best
No.
one and as quick as possible.
Yeah, and so put his ear all the way up there, and then just kind of hid behind a tent, let him go. Like, good luck, young one. You can do it.
Padawan.
Yeah, just so at least his team would see him as that leader,
right?
And that they could have faith in him.
Yeah, I learned over there, like when you're in that position of, even if you're a strong two, or whatever you have to be, it's like you can't show fear, and you got to be like very precise on your decision making, which I feel like leads, man, it leads to problems in the real world. Like right now, it's really hard for me sometimes to be a subordinate, and I really have to keep my ego in check and stay humble. And
because you expect in the past, what happened was a strong number two either made or break a leader, right?
Yeah.
A number one, because you had to be on page 2 while they were still reading page 1, right? You had to see all of it.
Yeah.
Like the second I got up on a call, it was like looking at a maze and doing it at lightning speed there and back. I knew exactly what we were going to do.
Yeah.
If any other part changes, I'll still have an answer for you, and I'll adjust to that change as fast as it's happening around me.
Yeah.
But you had an answer. You stayed ahead of them because you knew, okay, you're doing the robot for me. Okay, you're probably in cover. I need to move here. Give me this time to use, or call my blast window. And, it was a symphony, of destruction, kind of thing.
Right. Were you always so open about communicating your struggles, or is that something that evolved like as you became, I would say, like a leader? So
I think it became a leader, but it also became like you're talking struggles for PTSD. Yeah. That was probably not until even when I got out. It just started to really. That one was open. Like when I was down at the ball, or other places, seeing people not. I'm a civilian. I got a beard, and they're like, "Hey, how's shit going?" I had to not lie to them. I had to say, "It sucks." There's some fucking times it just fucking sucks. And like, what? I'm like, yeah, I'm worried about my job. I'm an at-will employee. I make good money, but I could get fired fucking tomorrow. I feel like I have no tribe right now. Right? I have no one that's military that I'm around me. Really, I see a few people, but they're ex-pilots, that I work with. And I mean, shit, there's no one I can reach out to. Like, people ask me if I have friends. I'm like, fuck, I do, but they're everywhere around the fucking world. I can text them, or I can FaceTime with them if you want to see them. But that's who my friends are. I'm like, so who do you hang out with? I'm like, my dogs.
Same.
I got some dogs, and I ride a motorcycle. And that was it. That was the shit I had. I'm like, fuck, I have to tell them that. And but I told them in ways like, hey, get your fucking education done. And then when you're 2 years out, start figuring out what the fuck you want to do.
Yeah.
Right.
Because it's going to end.
You have to go into something. It's going to end. You can't just, there's no Air Force transition program that's going to help you. That's total bullshit. Right. They don't do fuck all for you.
I feel like they can hook you up with some really mediocre shit. You know what I mean? It's like no one wants to.
They can help you get a job at Lowe's, and you're like, I can do that on my own.
That's what I did. I was an inventory manager at Home Depot, and I was like, "Is this my life?" And I was like, "This is stupid." And then after that, when I palace chased, I went from active to reserve. And then when I was in reserve, I was like, "Hey, I want to go downrange for the next 2 months." After that, I went to Charleston and I just deployed. That's all I did. I was like, I never want to work at Home Depot again.
Yeah.
But
no, man, I still have the itch. Like, I either want to go and teach or something else. But, and I look at my family now and they're like, hey, you can't do anything really fucking dangerous right now.
Yeah.
Like, we got to weigh this out.
Yeah.
You can do some things that are like sound dangerous or maybe are cool, but it can't be the straight up dangerous shit anymore.
Yeah. No, I get
we
that.
We need you in our life, and I'm like, okay. Like, no, we have to have you. You can't just risk it. It's not. That's where we are.
Yeah,
right? Kind of thing.
I kind of feel like there's a lot of people out there that would say that we are adrenaline junkies, or just like love that.
It's not. To me, it's that. It's not even a hero complex, right? Because I don't want to be
who I am. I
just want to help. I just want to because I know I can help.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And I see it. Like I see someone that's like, even if it's a fucking flat tire, if they don't look like a douche, I'm gonna stop.
Yeah.
and I know I can change that fucking tire better than you can, you
Yeah.
know?
Right.
And I look at him, I'm like, where's your, where's your jack? Where's this? You know, and they're like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, I'm like, and where I teach, I see a kid and I'm like, he's like, take the lug nuts off. You need to learn how to do this. And he's like, I'm like, it's really hard. I'm like, well, then stand on it and break the nut off, right?
Yeah.
Use your body weight and jump on it,
Yeah.
right? You're not going to hurt the tools, but that's how you do this.
Yeah.
You can't just grunt it over,
Yeah.
you know?
Don't throw in the towel and say I quit. You don't learn anything that
Yeah.
way. So
No.
uh you got purpose, and the purpose seems to be your family. That's
Yeah.
like I talked to I think it was Boulder
And
Crest.
that's a tough thing to hitch my wagon to, right? Because that's for some people and for some stuff, like that
Yeah.
may not be the best place to put all your eggs in that basket,
Or
right?
it may not be enough, because like we're
Yeah.
individual
Yeah.
people, and we gotta feel
Yeah.
like,
I think hedge fund management, right? So you
yeah,
invest in a little bit of everything.
yeah. So that's what I was gonna ask next. So purpose, what's the passion? Like and it seems like teaching's one of the things, getting back to
I really
others.
enjoy, and I'm just, I had an opportunity for a job to run security at like a what was it? It was gonna be the head security rep for the Texas School for the Deaf.
Oh, that's cool.
And the pay was going to be it was going to be a pay cut, and it was going
Yeah.
to be more hours. But man, it sounded like something that could be passionate about, right?
Yeah.
And so I try to help these kids and try to set up some security stuff and really like provide that protection thing. But I never really got a call back. I'm like, fuck, I can't believe I missed out on that one. But I was going to say no anyway, right? Because
Yeah.
the timing wasn't right. But it sucks not being able to you want to be the one that breaks up with them, right? Not
I
the other
know,
way
right?
around.
I've had a lot of cool jobs slip through the fingers, and it's like I look
Yeah.
back on it and I'm like, probably meant to be, you know what I mean? It's like
Yeah.
the direction of my life, it just feels like that's where I'm supposed to be. So it's like, yeah, those are cool and all,
Mm-hmm.
but that's all right. I'll just keep cruising. So
Yeah, I mean, and I think it's important now more than ever with the mental piece is to make sure that what you're doing is you're not compromising yourself, right, or your mental health for something, right? Because luckily, getting out of the military and having some of the mental protection financially from the VA and retirement and stuff makes it so you never be on the street, right? You may not be super rich, right?
mhm,
Or it may not be, like easy. You may not have trouble. You may still have trouble keeping your head above water, depending on how big your family is or what your responsibilities are. But you're not going to be dead ass fucking broke,
yeah, no,
right? And you'll have
absolutely.
medical care you can still get, and some other parts and pieces, And I think there's enough people out there that can still help you if you haven't done that yet. Go to the VA, get your shit.
Yeah.
They fucking worked you over for 20 years and took theirs. Now it's your turn to take it from them.
Yeah. I hate the VA. I feel like
I
they,
can't stand the VA.
I'll,
It gives me fucking heartburn every time I try to call them or
yeah.
deal with them.
Yeah,
It's
or
just,
like just the not response, or lack thereof,
oh,
lack of support. I feel like the VA research and development is amazing. I feel like some of
the R&D department,
yeah, like those guys that are like, hashing out research for therapies, what's impacting, what's good, what's not, stuff for the mental health side of the house. Like that's really outstanding. But when it comes to like applying that or giving it to people or even informing people of what options they have, I feel like it's just trash. And it's like, man,
yeah, like you have to have a secret code. The fact that there's companies out there that do that help veterans go through the process,
right?
and take a little bit of money to get it done. I'm like, why
Oh,
is there even
they
this
don't take a
entity?
little. They took
Yeah, they tell you a lot.
chunks.
Like, why does this entity even exist? Right?
Yeah.
The government should be bending over backwards to fucking give you this stuff.
Yeah. No, I agree with you. All right. So I got one question. It made me, I was thinking
Okay.
about it when we were talking earlier, and I've been holding it a little bit. So it seems like your dad had a pretty wild life, and he's done some stuff that seems intense. Do you ever talk to him about like, what kind of traumatic stuff he might have experienced and like how he dealt with it, and maybe the pros and cons to that? Like
My dad's not a great communicator because his dad wasn't.
yeah,
And his dad, my dad was the oldest of 9
yeah,
kids. And so his dad, discipline was kids are screaming or tearing shit up. He walks in the room, and this would be my grandfather, right? I never
right,
got to meet him, but he would just start beating kids until everyone got quiet,
right.
and that was kind of how shit got dealt with.
Mm.
And then, the brothers, would kind of self-regulate. It was mostly brothers. They had two sisters, but he said they were like their own gang. No one messed with the Cornell because they would, there's nine of them. They'd fucking
Yeah.
come down on you hard, in the neighborhood.
Hmm.
But he said, and I've never had a chance to really have those conversations with him,
Yeah.
just because our dynamic is so still odd. I love my father to death, and we still have our moments where we can talk, but it's still, I guess, maybe it's not daddy issues, but I'm still trying to like make sure that I'm seeking my father's approval, in my
Yeah.
life, even
Yeah.
today,
No, I,
to make sure that what I'm doing
yeah, I
is still
relate.
right, still on a level. Like, am I a shithead? Would you be proud of me?
Right.
Kind of thing.
Yeah. Uh,
You know,
my dad, he's police chief, and he's been a cop
yeah,
forever, a detective before that, and once I started identifying some of the stuff in me, I realized that, it's most likely that, maybe there's something there with him too, and I was just curious. And that was the hardest conversation for me to ever start, but I'm so glad I did, because the
yeah,
way like that, it reminds me of trying to talk to someone about small talk. If I'm going to be
yeah,
100% real, I feel like I had small talk with my dad almost my whole life,
yeah,
until we started talking about stuff like that. And it was like for the first time we ever had a real conversation. And I felt like, man, it changed the dynamic. I felt like for the better,
yeah.
as well as,
Yeah,
man,
I may have to do that. I mean, he's talked about situations where, he was working undercover at a convenience store. And this guy comes in, he's acting all fucking shady. He reaches back, back behind his back, kind of slow, and he's still talking, and he
yeah,
whips out his wallet like super fast.
yeah,
But my dad at the same time is drawing a pistol and has got it in his face, and
right.
then the guy who has the wallet's like, hey, whoa, man,
Easy.
what's going on, and my dad's like, okay, let me put that away, all right,
Sorry.
yeah, let me ring you up. Go ahead, go on.
Yeah, you got,
Hope you didn't recognize my pistol as a service 38,
right. You have a good night, sir.
Yeah. So yeah, I think that'd be great advice to try to broach that subject with my dad, and see if there's something there.
Yeah, just I don't know.
It's
I'm
it's
glad I
just it's
did.
I think it would be tough. I've been nervous,
I know,
even
right?
thinking about
Yeah,
it.
I was too. It took me months. Like, it was part of a therapy session that I tried out, and they're like, "You should probably do
Yeah,
this," and I was like, damn. I was like, are you serious? I was
yeah.
like, and it took me weeks. Like, I called everybody in my family but him. And then finally
Yeah,
I was like, so hey, and it was like sweaty palms. I'm sweating right now thinking about it, but
I know. Yeah, fuck, that'd be tough.
I don't know. It was just something I was thinking of, and I thought it'd be, I don't know. I didn't want to
No,
keep
yeah,
it. I wanted
because
to, like, if I have an idea, I just want to throw it out there. If it's a shit idea, then it's a shit
yeah,
idea. But if not, if
no,
it benefits, then hey, man.
because it's always been tough for me and my dad, like, to semi relate,
Yeah.
because I'm bigger than my dad.
Yeah.
I my genes were either recessive from other people down the line there, but I'm much bigger than my dad. My dad's like kind of my height, but he's like just lean,
Yeah.
kind of thin. He was a pitcher. He could run like run the mile,
Yeah.
kind of stuff. But he was into books. Like I could out bench press my dad when I was in junior high, kind of shit.
Yeah.
And like that's the last time I got invited to the gym with him.
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
and he's like, don't do too much, you're gonna hurt yourself. And I'm like, oh, okay. And then, then that's it. Yeah, I don't get to come back, because I'm putting on more weight than him.
Right.
But so yeah, and it was just, there was times where he was a shithead kid too. He was just being a dad, I think. And
Yeah. I did that too.
and that's hard to turn off, I guess, because he never had a dad. So, at 17, he was still growing up. He wasn't grown yet. So he never had that, father figure. Maybe that'd be my end, right? Like, hey, I know your dad died when you were young. Who stepped in as your
Yeah.
mentor then throughout the years? Was it maybe a sergeant you worked for, another lawyer, or maybe a judge or something? Who fulfilled that role,
Yeah.
kind of thing.
Mm.
That might be a way in,
Yeah.
but I'm still nervous as shit about that. That was a good idea though, man.
You just put it in the back burner, and if it ever happens, slide me
Yeah,
a message. I'd love to know how it went.
for sure, for sure.
On that, it's getting late. You're in. You got to get up early. Is there anything you want to hit on real quick before we jump off here?
No, man. I
It's
would just say I
recording
would
right
love
now.
to.
I just checked for like the
Yeah, I looked at it too.
150th
Yeah,
time.
yeah. To make sure it's there. I
Yeah.
would say I wouldn't mind coming to do it again, man. Just to check in.
Yeah.
to say, to have you be that lighthouse for people,
Yeah,
say
absolutely.
like, hey, come here and just, bare your soul kind of thing. And then you can, review that person's, profile or that interview you had before you do it again and say, hey, remember last time you brought up this, how are you?
Yeah.
And then I think within this medium, it provides that trust that says, hey, I can, maybe this is the time to say that I'm not doing well,
Right.
right? And that I still have bad thoughts. They don't go away, but now they're harder to keep suppressed.
Yeah.
They're bubbling up more, and I
Yeah.
keep, or I get to the point where I'm having fear now, where I don't feel like I'm in control. Like
Yeah.
I can't keep it under wraps anymore. Like whatever's in there, that beast or whatever's under my skin, it's an itch I can't,
Yeah.
get rid of anymore. It's bubbling out.
Hmm.
I'm having outbursts. My schedule's sparked.
Yeah.
Things are starting to get to me.
Yeah. No, man, you can hit me up anytime, whether it be on this
Yeah, for
platform or
sure.
just a call to say,
No,
hey, dude,
I
I
think
love
it's
it.
been great that Kip was able to put me in touch with you, and
Yeah.
then I'll do the same. To let people know that it's out there. And try to try to find something that's going to help, right? Because we're still losing too many folks. I think,
Yeah.
knock on wood, we've had a good year ish.
Yeah. It's been kind of quiet,
It's
which is awesome.
yeah,
It's usually every 3 to 4 months we'll lose somebody out of nowhere. And I'm like, shit.
yeah, and that's in a really extremely small, group. You look at it,
Yeah. A couple
what?
thousand. And that's been
Yeah,
consistent over the last 15 to 20 years, every
right.
few
Yeah,
months.
that's a small core group, right? Going
Yeah.
through because you took a snapshot and said, hey, these individuals within this time frame were kind of locked in here and went through it because the new ones that were coming in didn't get exposed to that, or they were still kind of going through school,
Yeah.
and they didn't get it.
Hmm.
And yeah, you were bonded. It's that band of brothers type thing, but it's that shared experience slash
Yeah.
trauma
And I feel like
slash whatever you want to call it.
if individuals like, you and, Kip and other people like that come on here and I I mean, I feel like I'm relatable to you all. But I also feel like a
Yeah,
lot of people see us as, we did some things that are pretty, I guess, unique, and if we're able to communicate our struggles and how challenging our lives have
yeah,
been, while achieving something like that, then it's okay for the normal person because you don't have to go to war see shit. I have friends
right.
that have
No,
seen
I
things that are as bad as me, and they never went to war. And it's like
right,
you don't
right.
have to be military, you don't have to be a police officer, you don't have to be any of those things. It's everywhere. But I feel like
It
if
is. Yeah, that could be trauma. Could be at home or
yeah,
anywhere else. I would look and say as a sampling across the spectrum for what you're doing with this. I would look and say grab a kid who either missed the boat and thought he was going to go to war
yeah,
and didn't,
mm-hmm,
and is having to deal with that. Like, hey, this is what I've heard there's some troops out there. Like, this is what everyone was told. I was getting prepped for this. I was going to
yeah.
war. I'm super fucking
I
hardcore.
know at least
You're training
three.
me to be as hard as woodpecker lips, right?
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden now I'm not doing that. The most difficult thing I get to do is maybe go to Africa, or go, to Kuwait
Yeah.
or some shit. And some of the older guys are just fucking looking at me like that's bullshit. It's a fuck off TDY somewhere.
Yeah. I know a couple, and
And
that's what they did. They
yeah,
trained for it and they never got that opportunity. And now you see them and
right.
they have the same, I won't say PTSD issues, but they have the same substance abuse, the same, because they've likely
Yeah.
lost friends, that were over
Uh
there, and
huh.
they have that remorse, like that should have been me kind of
Right.
thing.
Right.
I mean,
And I also look at some of the leadership, right? I would,
I have
not to name
one.
drop,
I
but
did.
I would talk to some, maybe I can reach out to them first.
Hmm.
But man, they caught just a little bit where they had that little bit of moment where they were doing some shit, and then that was one rotation. Then all the other ones after that, they were in a leadership position where they had to take care of guys and they were losing guys.
Yeah. I,
And how did they deal with that? Like some of them that talked to me, they told me that, hey, you can't show fear, you can't cry, you can't fucking break down in front of these guys. I don't care how bad it hurts. You got to keep your shit together.
yeah.
Unpack it when you get home or unpack it when you fucking retire.
Yeah, that
But
reminds me. I have one that I'm hoping it goes out next week, and then I believe yours will be after that. It's
Okay.
Chief Page. I don't know if you ever met him, but he's command like he was command chief, you know. This guy,
Yeah.
he was in a leadership role. I don't think he did too much actual combat, you know, but the fact that he
Hmm.
was there helping people transition, you know, from getting wounded, going back into their
Yeah.
families, or having people commit suicide on his watch, and dealing with the sexual assaults that happen, you know, like it's just overwhelming
Hmm.
as a leader.
Yeah.
You're personally connected to all that. You know, it's not the
Yeah.
same as getting shot at in Afghanistan, but my goodness, it's
No.
still dramatic and it's impactful, you know.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, this is, I know we're at the end, but fuck, man. Like, I got accused of fucking war crimes my last rotation in
Jeez.
Afghanistan.
Yeah.
And I had to get a fucking lawyer.
Shoot.
I'm at Leatherneck and I have to get a lawyer out of Kandahar kind of shit. And I missed going, like, I didn't get to go with the rest of the team back to Germany to do the in processing.
Mm-hmm.
I'm stuck like a fucking prisoner at Leatherneck, you
That's
know?
crazy.
I can go and to and from the compound to the chow hall kind of thing. That was it. And I was like, what the fuck is going on here?
Yeah.
And my legal team's like, don't talk to anybody. We're doing the investigation.
Mm-hmm.
They're doing this kind of crap. And I'm like, what the fuck? Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Like, Jesus Christ,
Man. I was
And it came all out in the wash, right?
yeah.
Because they were kind of quick and I ended up getting a classified fucking LOC. No shit. It's a fucking secret classified document that I got an LOC,
Wow.
you know? And then so they write it up and they say, hey, this is this. You didn't do anything fucking wrong, but you took responsibility at a level not commensurate with your rank. You're not a fucking field colonel. You know, actions you do in the field can mess up larger operations or bigger coin operations and this kind of shit. And I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about? I'm taking care of the platoon and the company that I'm fucking with. And I'm out there with, yeah. And you put me as the only fucking EOD team trying to move 60 fucking vehicles up Route Red, you know? And I'm like, you want me to, but all right. Yeah, I'll quit bending here, brother. Hey, thanks.
No, man, anytime, dude. I love it. I'm always here, man. It doesn't
Okay.
matter. Not or you just text. You text me, I'll respond, and where I respond, I'm ready to talk. You know what I mean? I'm ready to
Awesome.
rock. I appreciate this. Still recording. So
Okay.
happy. I'm so glad it didn't fuck up. I say that too early. Hopefully it doesn't. But anyways, I really appreciate it. And you have a good night and travel safe, brother.
Okay. You too, man.
All right. Bye.
Bye.
And with that, we're going to wrap things up. I hope you all enjoyed this. If you ever have any questions or anything, you could hit me up on my website. Find me on any of the social media platforms. If you're a veteran looking for more support, hit me up. If you're just curious, hit me up. I really appreciate the listen. And with that, we're going to wrap it up. Have a good one. All right.